with the webinar today. So just to give you an introduction to myself, my name is Josh Sato. I am the business development specialist for collaboration and security here at ScanSource. So here to help our partners through kind of their Cisco journey, helping them understand some of the certifications and profitability, especially around collaboration and security, but especially during these times right now, if you have a lot of hybrid work environments going on, security is very top of mind for a lot of our end users and clients. So we had brought Christian Clayson in today, who is the technical manager engineer for Cisco, is going to be sharing the cloud mailbox defense. So this is going to be a great offering to include and a great kind of upsell for a lot of your different end customers and clientele, because they're looking for these types of solutions to, make sure that they're securing all their kind of threat vectors, and email and cloud mailbox is definitely going to be one of those kind of defenses. So I will go ahead and kick it over to Christian, who's going to be presenting, and we'll let him go from there, and then I'll wrap it up with a couple of messages from the ScanSource side, and then we'll go from there. So Christian, whenever you're ready, I'll let you share your screen and start and take it away.
Thank you. So, like Josh said, I'm Christian Clausen. I'm a technical marketing engineer for content security here at Cisco. I cover email security, covered web security for a very long time. And I'm here to talk about a brand new product that we just launched in the very beginning of September called Cloud Mailbox Defense. If you heard the term Project Raptor, or Raptor is a product being thrown around in the halls of Cisco Live back when there were actual halls of Cisco Live, that is what this project came from. So now we have a nice boring Cisco name. Instead of Raptor, we're Cloud Mailbox Defense. This is something that was born out of a small group of engineers about a year ago. I was lucky enough to join them and kind of have seen this thing grow up from nothing to GA. So it's been very cool to witness. This has grown out of the need to kind of change our strategy or offer something different in the way of email security, because of the fact that everybody is now in the cloud with email, and the way that that's kind of changed the environment. Uptake in email in the cloud. I think email was probably one of the first real movers when it came to the cloud migration that started a few years ago. People moving their applications, moving their databases, or whatever that they're migrating. Email was number one, I think, just because everybody was running Exchange Online for the most part. And when Office 365 came around and then Microsoft started offering all these migration tools, everybody just jumped on those, stuck with Exchange, decided to run it with online services with Microsoft. And that has resulted in Microsoft having a huge chunk of this market. Gmail is the number two, and they are way behind Microsoft as far as market share. So I bring this up just to say that Cloud Mailbox Defense is targeting Microsoft very specifically. So we don't support G Suite at this time. We have a long-term roadmap item to support Google, but that's not going to come anytime soon as far as the coming quarters. We're very specifically selling this as a security suite for Microsoft 365. So keep that in mind as we go through. And the reason for that is just because we think that there's a big enough market for that right now. The vast majority of our customers are running that. So like I said, this came out of Cisco organically. This is not an acquisition. This is not an iteration on any existing technology that we had. We're not repurposing old stuff. This really was built from scratch within the last year. So that's very unique when it comes to Cisco. I'm the first to say Cisco is not known for innovating as far as coming up with things internally 100%. We're very much known for acquisitions. So it was cool to be a part of this because it's very unique. Part of this means that this is a V1 product. It's something that we have developed from nothing within the last, and that means that the first release is very clean. There's not a lot of extra features. We're going to be on a super fast release cadence with this product. It's a full SaaS product. So if you compare it to our other email security offerings, CES, ESA, this is not something where you've got to wait 6 months for a major release to get new stuff. We're going to be releasing every sprint. We're going to have bi-monthly sprints. So you're going to see new features as they're developed in real time. The thing is going to iterate very quickly. Think Umbrella, if you want to compare it to something in Cisco, always be shipping. We want to just constantly release and tweak and fix things as we go. So email is still the number one threat vector. It's still the easiest way to get into any environment. It's still the first attempt, usually, in any kind of a campaign, a malware campaign, a phishing campaign. Most breaches start with an email. We already know all this stuff. I'm not going to dwell on it for too long. It makes a lot of sense because if you want to get a malicious payload or a malicious URL in front of an actual user where they can click on it, email is the easiest way to do that. Business email compromise is getting, people are setting up all kinds of bait and having finance people, erroneously transfer or wire money to accounts that are controlled by people that want to launder that money, or by other cyber criminals. And it's now more lucrative to do that than it is to spread ransomware, which is pretty impressive. According to the FBI, BEC is more expensive on the whole than ransomware is. People are falling for it left and right. So this just continues to be the trend that's been here forever. Nothing's really changing here. The different types of attacks may swap places as far as which are the hottest at the moment, but this stuff is not going away. As long as companies run email, this stuff is not going away. And we know that if you're protecting infrastructure, if you're protecting email, you're protecting servers or users or accounts or software, it doesn't matter. It's an arms race, right? The attackers are only just as sophisticated as they have to be in order to be successful. They're just like everyone else who's trying to maximize their profits. They're not going to put a lot of resources into something unless it's getting them the equivalent gain monetarily. And so what they're going to do is look at the baseline, and they're going to make sure that they're tailoring their attacks to whatever the base protections are. And right now, the base protections are Microsoft Exchange Online Protection. If I'm writing a malware campaign or a phishing campaign and I'm going to go launch it using email, doesn't matter who I'm launching it against necessarily, unless this is a highly targeted attack, which most are not. I'm going to assume that Microsoft Exchange Online Protection is there, right? The attackers are going to get the subscription and they're going to tailor their attacks to try to evade those protections because Microsoft is so successful, because they have such a huge market share. It's just assumed that they're there. And so there's always going to be a higher number of attacks against Microsoft, and there's always going to be an edge there where people are attacking them specifically. And so one of the things that we want to be able to do is offer a diversity in threat intelligence, a broader set of eyes on email threats. Whenever I hear about how Microsoft is getting better and better with their email security or with their security in general, I always go back and think about this. They're always going to be the most targeted vendor. And as long as that's true, we're going to continue to hear what we CISOs all the time, which is that they need defense in depth in a sense. They need more than one vendor checking these things. They need a wider set of threat intelligence to make sure that they have the widest coverage possible. And so what we're doing with this product is we have a technical partnership with Microsoft. We've developed this product to integrate directly with Office, with Microsoft 365, in a way that we can get these the Cisco security portfolio into Microsoft's cloud natively in order to get you that diversity in threat coverage. And the way that we're doing that is using all of the APIs that we now have with cloud email security. If you look at on-premise email, back when people ran Exchange servers in their data centers, many people still do, what we do there in order to automate things like SecOps, incident response, auto remediation of messages from mailboxes, even scanning or investigative stuff, there's PowerShell everywhere. We use PowerShell, we use all the different scripting abilities that we have to go in and do that. But when we try to transfer that up to the cloud, it doesn't scale very well. And On top of that, Microsoft is now providing us things in Exchange Online that we did not have on premises, like the Graph API and the security APIs. We have a whole lot more tools now to do scanning, remediation, investigation, triage, all of this stuff that we didn't have before. And so we really need to be taking advantage of that stuff when we're protecting our customers. So that's what we're doing with this product. We're trying to attach to a new market, which is still very much in flux. Gartner coined the term cloud email supplemental security to describe it, but basically it's about protecting email accounts, protecting users using the native APIs that are in the email provider's cloud environment. And this is a pretty hot market. There's a number of startups in this space that have gotten a lot of money, over $300 million in the past 3 years or so, have gone into startups in this space. But nobody the size of Cisco is in here yet. Cisco is going to be the first top tier security vendor, the first vendor with a research arm the size of Talos to come in and provide a pure CESS product. And so we think we're very well positioned in this market to attach to Microsoft, to provide that additional protection and bring something that not many, if any, of our competitors are bringing. So that's what we're doing with Cloud Mailbox Defense. It's not replacing anything that we're currently selling as far as email security. This is not a deprecation of cloud email security or of the email security appliance. Those secure email gateway solutions are always going to be in our portfolio, at least for the foreseeable future, because they're very different from the way that Cloud Mailbox Defense and the API-driven email security products work in general. So I'll get into all the nuts and bolts of that coming up shortly. But keep in mind, this is something that we think is going after a different set of customers than CES. So if you're familiar with CES, that makes sense to you maybe. If not, if you don't know what CES is, you're not totally familiar with Cisco's email security portfolio, that's fine. I'll get into more details later. It'll make a lot more sense. The three things that we want to focus on with this product that differentiate it from a gateway type product is number one, simplicity. Simplicity is the absolute most important thing on this slide. It's the most important thing in how we've designed the UI, how we've designed how the product works, how we've designed how you can buy it, how the SKU works. We want this product to be easy to deploy, easy to configure, easy to manage, easy to buy, because we are juxtaposing it against secure email gateway products that tend to be much more advanced. So if you look at CES or the ESA for that matter, what you have to do to deploy these products or any secure email gateway is change your MX records. You change the DNS records that specify where your email server lives so that you can essentially reroute your mail elsewhere through the gateway. And then the same thing on the way out, right? In that sense, it's a pretty big lift for a lot of companies who don't have dedicated security teams, who don't have that advanced email expertise in-house. We want to provide something that can be deployed without changing your mail flow at all, something that can be deployed in 5 minutes, that doesn't require that you shunt your mail off to a third-party cloud somewhere, that just works when you plug it in, that has a policy page that doesn't require that you go and read a user manual, something that you just understand intuitively, and something that you can just use point and shoot remediation, where you can search all your mail quickly and point and click to remediate messages no matter where they are. So whether they've been delivered already, whether they were internal messages, doesn't matter, right? So we want to go to these customers who don't have huge security teams, who have admins who have to wear a lot of hats, these SMB through mid-market customers who want something that just plugs in and works in a SaaS type model. So in that way, we're making it very simple. The SKU as well is very simple. It's one SKU and one SKU only. There are no add-ons. So as you'll see when we talk about the features on the next slide, we're using AMP and Threat Grid, but there's no add-on licenses required for those. They just come with the product. You don't have to buy additional sample packs for ThreatGrid. All of this is included. We are including our high-value services, so our Swiss support enhanced is included with every SKU. So you can get advanced hack support as well. All this stuff just comes with it. We want to make it very easy to understand, very simple to purchase, to deploy, to manage. The visibility part means that we're scanning every single mail. That means whether or not it traversed the edge, whether or not it's already been delivered. If the mail went from an internal user to an internal user, your gateway device sitting at the edge, whether it's CES, whether it's Proofpoint, whether it's Mimecast, the message is not going to traverse that device. It's going to stay in Microsoft's cloud, and you're not going to get that additional scanning that you're getting from that vendor that is running your email gateway. And that's a big deal because account takeover is incredibly lucrative. Account takeover may be the end goal of an attack, or it may be a stepping stone for somebody to attack one of your partners or to attack somebody higher up inside the organization. You've got to get visibility and scanning on that internal mail. Also, insider threats, people that go rogue inside the environment, start sending out malware. This stuff can't be caught by a gateway product alone. The visibility is in the search and triage. So we provide that really easy dashboard, right? And this is how we differentiate ourselves from Microsoft in particular. One of the things that we've heard from our beta customers is how easy it is to search for an email, whether you're looking for something with a particular subject or sender, recipient or domain or URL, and find it and remediate it in our product versus Microsoft's dashboard, where you've got to use message trace and you've got to wait for the query to finish. And then if you want to go in and rip the message out, you've got to use PowerShell to go in and iterate through the mailboxes and find it. We want to provide something that's really simple and easy, fast and powerful, so that you would prefer to come to our interface in order to do that type of work rather than Microsoft. So that's where we are providing our value above what you're getting with your Microsoft E3 license, for example, and what you might get with ATP1. So what we're doing here is positioning this product as an alternative to Microsoft's ATP1, their Advanced Threat Protect 1 package. So we're looking at customers that have E3 that are looking for additional protection than what they're getting from EOP, and they're thinking about ATP1. We want to come in and say, yes, you could stick with Microsoft, or you could go with Cisco, get a wider variety of threat intelligence, looking at the threats, get a easier to use, quick and much faster and much more powerful dashboard for quickly investigating and remediating messages. And then the other thing is the integration that you would get with us. Right now, we have integrations with Talos, with AMP, with ThreatGrid. So we're doing file analysis, file reputation, cloud sandboxing, all of that stuff. We have cloud URL analysis coming in, natural language processing and all that stuff. But if you look at the wider Cisco portfolio, we have things like Umbrella and Duo, SecureX. All those things also are going to come into play in this product. So the first thing you're going to see is SecureX, which we're working on in the next quarter to get that integrated. And then beyond that, we have all these other things that we want to plug in. We want to treat this as a platform, as a way to get the rest of the Cisco security portfolio into Microsoft's cloud. And so watch for that as we continue to iterate the product and develop a roadmap, because that's going to be another differentiator for us when we're looking at positioning ourselves against Microsoft and offering a different kind of a value. So if you look at the actual features of the product, everything on this slide I would consider table stakes as far as email security. If you were to buy an email security product today, you would expect it would pull out the attachment and do file reputation checks on it. We can use AMP for that. We have ThreatGrid for dynamic file analysis. So if a file is unknown and it has dynamic content, we can upload it to the sandbox, detonate it, run it against thousands of behavioral indicators to determine whether it's malicious or high risk. We're looking at the sender reputation to catch known malicious senders and known spammers, et cetera. We're looking at URL reputation, and like I said, we're also integrating cloud URL analysis, which is the new engine that is just now going into CES as well, so that we can run the URL in a sandbox in real time to find any malicious JavaScript and that kind of thing. We're looking at the body of the mail. We have multiple engines that check the content for BEC, for phishing. We're integrating natural language processing and cognitive abilities as well. That's coming in the next quarter or two. And of course, we're blocking spam. So none of this is necessarily new. It's in the way that we're doing it that's new. So if you compare it to a secure email gateway type solution like CES, what we do is we ask the customer to change their MX record, advertises Cisco's data center as their email server effectively. So any mail comes into CES, we have a multitude of policy options there. You have all the throttling, you have LDAP call ahead so that you can do directory harvesting attack prevention. We have multiple quarantines. You can write custom message filters. You can do all kinds of things in CES. It's a very feature-rich product. And then at that point, whether if the mail is not dropped or quarantined, it gets delivered to Microsoft, and the same thing happens on the way outbound. Now, that product is incredibly effective for an email gateway solution, but there are customers for whom that is just too much of a lift. The policy config can be quite complex if you're not familiar with it, if you're not an email expert. So we want to offer them something that's much more easy to deploy, and that they're willing to give up some of the advanced features like the throttling and the directory harvesting attack prevention and the custom message filters in order to get that ease of use and the simplicity. And so the way it works with Cloud Mailbox Defense is that we get a copy of every message that is sent or received in the environment without having to reroute it anywhere. So the mail is delivered directly to Microsoft as if there's nothing there. There's no change to MX records. We get a copy of every message, whether it's incoming, outgoing, internal, doesn't matter. We scan that inside Azure. So we are running our scanning engines and all of our API calls to Talos, to AMP, to ThreatGrid, et cetera, inside of Microsoft's cloud so that we can get the message very quickly. We scan it very quickly. And then when we action it, we do it directly against the mailbox itself using the Microsoft Graph API. And we can do this very quickly. Generally within a second. And it takes several seconds for an email to actually show up in an inbox. So we do this before the user even sees it, before they have a chance to open it or click on anything, open a link or an attachment, etc. And we're doing all this in Azure in containers, but the customer doesn't know that. They don't have to manage anything in Azure. It doesn't use any of their Azure storage or their quota or anything like that. This is entirely hosted by us. I only bring it up to say that it is, innovative, and it makes sure that we have low latency and that we can provide additional privacy protection, because the body of the message and the content of the attachment don't have to leave Microsoft's cloud. We get it, we scan it, and then we discard it. And then what we send over to our cloud where we host the user's interface is metadata. I'll talk about that as well in the next couple of slides. So the way that we get messages is through journaling. If you're not familiar with journaling, it was invented for legal archiving, for record retention, e-discovery, that kind of thing. Basically, it's a way to set up a rule to send a copy of every mail that matches that rule to another inbox. Now, in this case, the inbox is the mail intake system that we provide to you as a customer when you set it up, which is it's our mail intake system in Microsoft's cloud that's waiting to consume and scan the messages. So you get the message encapsulated in a new set of headers as part of the journaling. And so we get it with all of the original headers intact, with the original attack, the URLs and all that kind of stuff. And we also get additional information like how Microsoft scored it as far as their forefront spam scanning, their bulk mail scanning. We can see all that because as the message moves through Exchange Online Protection, Microsoft marks the headers up with those scores. And so we know how Microsoft scored it as well when it comes to those particular engines. And we can see if the message was matched an allow list in Microsoft. So if the user or the administrator went into the Exchange Admin Center, configured an allow list entry for the sender, the recipient, or whatever, we can see that in the headers and we can honor it. So that way the user doesn't have to manage two allow lists, one in Microsoft and one in Cloud Mailbox Defense. So again, there's no MX record changes. We're plugged right into Azure. We scan the messages and then we discard the journal copy as soon as we're done scanning it. So this is a multi-cloud solution. We have the Azure cloud where we're actually doing the work of the scanning. And then we have our cloud where the user interface lives, where the user's policy set lives, and where we're indexing the data that we do keep. And the data that we send over there is metadata. So attachments go to ThreatGrid. If you have ThreatGrid enabled for cloud sandboxing, that is configurable. So you can disable that if you like, because we understand not every customer is going to want to send their attachments to a cloud sandbox. That's fine. If you disable that, then the attachments don't leave either. The only thing that's ever sent out of Azure is metadata. So the headers of the message, the senders, recipients, the subject, anything you get in the email header, the attachment hashes and the names of any attachments, any URLs that are in the body of the message or the attachments, and the verdicts that we get back. So the attachment sticks around in Azure for 24 hours because we need to check the user's policy to see if we need to send it up to ThreatGrid or not, and then it's discarded. The data that we send over to our cloud for indexing, the metadata, stays for 3 months. So you're able to search and remediate against stuff that is up to 90 days old. So again, we want this to be a way to plug in Talos and the rest of Cisco email and Cisco security in general into Microsoft. Like I said, we have a technical partnership with them that we started from the very beginning when we started thinking about this product. And it's been going very well. Microsoft's APIs are very well documented, and they like it when a vendor uses this kind of a solution and uses the APIs in the way that they're intended. And there's a selfish reason for that, admittedly. If you shim yourself in between the world and Microsoft, or you add a connector of some kind, you are potentially depriving Microsoft of some threat intelligence value, right? Because if I drop a message before it gets to Microsoft, they never see it. They're not getting the information that they need to feed their threat intelligence organization. So they're much more open to vendors using this type of a solution where it's more of a partnership. We're both seeing all of the data. We're not depriving Microsoft of it, and we're using the APIs, in the way that they're intended, in the way that they're written, and they're constantly adding to them as well. So we're keeping this partnership going so that we're on the ahead of the curve with the changes in their API, with new capabilities that they're adding, so that we can make sure that we're getting the most out of it. So this product is primarily for customers that would not run a gateway because it's a little too much for them. They don't have the administrative overhead. They don't have the internal email expertise to run a secure email gateway. They want something that's a pure SaaS solution that just kind of plugs in, doesn't look like an appliance to manage. Many of these customers, they never ran on-premises email. I mean, if you look at how long cloud email has been around, there are plenty of companies that started after the fact and have always run cloud email. And perhaps they're used to this type of SaaS stuff. They're not used to managing an appliance. And so a secure email gateway seems a little bit out of their paradigm. So we're primarily looking at them, but there is a secondary use case for the product, which is as a way to address internal scanning for companies that do have a secure email gateway. And so if you have something at the edge, but you need something to scan your internal mail, we can also provide additional capabilities. So not only would you get, the internal scanning with the product, you get that simple dashboard that you don't necessarily have with your gateway, certainly, with Microsoft, certainly, where you can just quickly search all of the mail that you have and quickly action it. You can empower your security operations because everything is built on top of open RESTful APIs. We're working on getting these documented in the next quarter. We're adding role-based access control. As soon as we get that in, we're going to open up the APIs, and everything in this product is built on top of a RESTful API because we had the opportunity to build it from scratch. So we weren't hindered by legacy technology. We got to choose the most modern cloud components, the most modern development practices. And so everything in the UI is built on top of a RESTful API. So we'll get these things documented, and you'll be able to plug in anything that you can do in the UI and with the product into existing SecOps, existing triage operations. You can enrich your IR investigations. We have a feature called Conversation View that I'll show you that will help with this as well. And so you get all that in addition to the internal scanning. So these are the things that we offer beyond just the fact that we're scanning every message. The POV is super simple. We have 30-day trials available. We're working on a not for resale as well that should be available this month so that you can get your hands on it. There's very, very, very low risk in running this POV. I mean, I can't say zero risk because there's no such thing as zero risk in our industry. Like everybody knows that's ever had to work as a sysadmin or a netadmin. But if you think about the fact that we don't reroute the mail, and that when you deploy the product, you can do it in an audit mode where we don't even get the permissions to touch the mailbox. We run as an application in Azure, and so you can launch it with permissions that don't allow us to touch the mail. So we're not rerouting it. We're just getting copies of everything through journaling, and then we don't even have the ability to move or delete any messages. There's pretty low risk. There's not a whole lot going on there that could do your organization harm. So it's a very fast two-step deployment. The POV deployment is the full deployment of the product with the change or with the difference that you choose the mode without write permissions. And so that means that you're getting the full experience. So when you deploy it in POV, it is the actual deployment. So you instantly get all of the tracking, you get the same reporting, the same search, everything that you would with the actual full working product. We just can't go the extra step of actually remediating. So this is all very fun to talk about and how easy it is, but I know security vendors lie to you all day about how easy things are. So I'm going to demo it and show you what it looks like. I'll walk through the whole deployment, show you just how fast it is, and we'll talk about the rest of the UI as well. So I'll kick off the setup wizard. Basically, when you get a welcome email, if you sign up for a POV or you buy the product, in any case, you get a welcome email, you click through, you set up your SecureX single sign-on, and then you get this wizard. So there's two steps to the wizard. The first is to choose the mode of the product. There's audit mode and audit with enforcement. As I said, the difference is what permissions we get from Microsoft for your tenant. So I'm going to choose audit with enforcement because I want to show you the enforcement stuff. But from here on out, the workflow is exactly the same. The only difference is what permissions we request. You click on Connect to Microsoft 365, and you get redirected to the login that we all know and love. You authenticate to your tenant and accept the permissions that Cloud Mailbox Defense wants in your environment. And then we give you a journal address. So here we assign an address. We say you're done integrating, go set up a journal rule. So you copy this address, you go create a journal rule in Exchange Online, your Exchange Admin Center. And then it loads. So if you're familiar with Exchange Admin Center, this is all you. If you're not, what you do is you click on Compliance Management, Journal Rules, and you create a rule. There's not a lot to configure. You just paste in the address that we gave you. You give it a name, and then you choose what mail you want to send to us. So you can send mail from specific users or groups, or you can send internal or external mail. In this case, I'm going to send everything. You save the rule, and that's it. That's the entire deployment. So it's very, very fast, very easy. We want to make sure it can be done with minimal hand-holding and minimal post-sale support. And we've experienced that through the beta and the IFT. The customers that we had run through this, everyone was able to do it with zero help from support. And most of them reported being able to do it in about 5 minutes or less. So after that, you set up your policy. This is the whole policy right here. At the top, we have the mode. You can jump back and forth, basically just downgrade the permissions or upgrade the permissions on the fly. That's what I did in order to kick off the wizard. The message analysis option is where you prescribe what mail you want us to scan. This is here in case customers do have a gateway at the edge and they don't want to double scan mail. Maybe they already have Cisco Cloud Email Security as their gateway device, so they only want Cloud Mailbox Defense to scan internal mail. You can choose incoming, internal, outgoing, or any combination of the three to scan. If you journal us the other mail, that's great because we can still run reporting on it and put it in the search dashboard, but we won't actually scan it. Attachment analysis is ThreatGrid. So this is where you control what messages you want to send to ThreatGrid in the cloud to be analyzed. You can choose incoming attachments, outgoing attachments, or internal, or any combination of the three. Our remediation actions is what do you want to do with mail that we've convicted as malicious, phishing, or spam? Right now, we only have two options. You move it to the trash folder and move it to the junk folder. What we're working on right now for our next dev cycle is an admin quarantine. You'll be able to delete the message as far as the user's inbox is concerned, send it to a quarantine where the user has no access to it. That will be coming very soon. And there's other things we have on the roadmap as well, like modify the subject, rip out the attachment alone. There's a lot of things that we're planning to do here. Again, I'll go back to what I said at the top, which is this is version 1. We're going to be iterating on it very quickly. So watch it, and we will be adding new features quite often. Automated remediation, this is where you control what tenant you want to apply this policy to. So most customers have at least 2 domains in their tenant. Many have dozens or even hundreds. If you want to apply this policy to all of your domains, you can do that. Or you can just do particular domains. This is where you control that. The home page is very, very simple. We want to make it very Google-esque, kind of like a single place to search for all your mail. We'll be adding some more widgets and statistics on here as well. Right now we have the mix of traffic and the total convictions over the last 24 hours. The search, you can search for anything in any of the metadata that we have. So we have the sender, recipient, subject, attachment name, the URLs, all that kind of stuff. Whatever you search in here will take you to the search and triage dashboard. Where most of the work is done in the product. This is all of the mail with the newest on the top. If I had a lot of mail coming in here, every time I hit search, it would repopulate. There'd probably be new messages. We have a date picker here on the left. I'm going to go to the last 30 days. We have up to 90 days of data, as I mentioned. You've got the directionality of the message. So whether the message was inbound, outbound, mixed, meaning there are both internal and external recipients. You can search particular fields if you don't want to do a global search here. So this is the same search that's on the homepage, but you can search for a particular subject if you want. You can filter based on verdict. We have malicious, phishing, spam, trusted. If you expand these cards, you can get more headers from the message that we have stored, the additional recipients, all of the attachments and links. If it overflows the card, you can click more and get all the details of the links or attachments that might have overflowed. When you select a message or more, I can select all these messages if I like. In any case, you get the option to move it to junk, move it to trash. In the future, we'll have the modify subject, move to admin quarantine, etc., move to the inbox. When you choose an option, you're prompted to reclassify it if required. So this is how we get our false negative and false positive reporting. If this message, I'm moving it to junk because it was not convicted as spam and it should have been, I can reclassify it. This has the effect of reporting it back to Talos and back to us, our engineering team, so that we can constantly tweak and upgrade the engines to make sure we're as accurate as possible. If you mark it as trusted, this will clear the verdict on it. Or if you're just moving it just to move it and the classification is correct, you can keep the current classification. If you look at the timeline of the message, you can see when it came in, with what particular metadata, whether it got a verdict and when, and what actions were taken on it. In this case, these were automatic actions, meaning they were done via the automatic policy that we set up. You can also tell that by this little shield on the far right. That means it was remediated automatically by policy, not manually by somebody in the screen. Trusted gives you a little checkbox. There's another gray checkbox over here. This one indicates that we permitted the message based on an allow list in Microsoft. So if somebody had, if they whitelisted one of these based on the sender or whatever over here in the admin center, we see that as part of the journal headers and we'll allow it, and we'll put this little box here so that you know that's why we allowed the message. The other thing that we have here, the last thing I want to demo, is our conversation view. And what this is a way to get a graphical representation of what happened with an email and who was affected by it. Sorry about that. So if I wanted to find one of these messages and I can check where malware, where phishing might have been added to it, what I can do is pull up our conversation view and I'll get a walkthrough basically of the conversation. So I can see, number one, where something came in, where malware might have been added to it. So I can get a sense of my patient zero and my blast radius of a message, right? So here, what I did was expand a whole thread. So this is a long running email thread here. The first message in it is at the very beginning, and it has 2 recipients on it. That's why there's a number 2 in this circle here. The next thing that happened, the following generation, was a reply with 1 recipient. So basically it was a reply back to the original sender. And then as I continue to walk through the conversation, I can see it was forwarded 3 separate times, once to 2 external recipients, which is why you have this light blue here. It matches the outgoing directionality. It was forwarded here and here. And then this user forwarded it 4 separate times, twice with phishing links added to it, and once with a malicious attachment. So what happened here is likely one of 2 scenarios. Either this user's been compromised, somebody's taken over their account and started digging through the sent folder or looking at existing internal email threads and started sending out malware and phishing in order to try to maybe elevate their privilege, phish somebody higher up in the organization, otherwise spread laterally or do damage with malware. Or this user is a malicious insider. Maybe they've gone rogue and they're trying to do damage inside the organization. So this feature is something that none of our competitors offer really. You you want to be able to get a good sense when you see something like this of where it started and who was impacted. And we hope that this is a useful tool in doing that. This is a beta version. As you can see, it says beta up here. It's still available in GA. Like, everybody can use this feature, but we added this beta tag because it is the very first stab at the feature. And we're going to be adding a lot more things here. Things like remediating directly from the graph, having more details in the graph about the messages, more metadata, all that kind of stuff. So this is our first version of it, but it's pretty cool. It demos well. We think it's useful, and it's a differentiator because nobody else is really doing this. And this type of attack is incredibly insidious. If you see an email coming in as part of an ongoing internal conversation with other people inside the org, even if you're a hyper-vigilant user, you're probably not nearly as suspicious of that as you are of a message that comes in cold from the outside. So the fact that this is all internal mail means that this attack is just that much more likely to be effective. And it means that your secure email gateway is not going to see it. You've got to have something scanning your internal mail. So for reporting, I can show it to you, but I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's going to change really soon. This is still in beta right now, the instance that I'm in. It's on par with GA as far as the features, but we're going to be changing all of these graphs within the next couple weeks. So you'll get something similar, but there'll be much more detail and you'll have much more configurability. This is going to change very soon. So this is what the data that we have anyway. You can click through here to the particular data from the graph and all that. But keep in mind that this is going to change. So that is all I had. Let me jump back to the slides, make sure that I'm not missing anything. But I think that I'm about ready to hand it back over to Josh, and we can take questions and finish up.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Christian, for running through that. That's an awesome demo. A great offering, like we said, and something that IT shops are really looking for right now, especially, as Christian was saying, that really in that SMB space, a lot of them really are wearing multiple hats. Someone's not really a security person, so looking for these types of requests to help them kind of get through it. That's awesome. So I don't see anything in chat right now as far as any questions or anything like that, but if you guys do have any questions, just to follow this up, I will be sending out the presentation, and we do record this as well, so I will be sending that out. But you can send any questions to ask Cisco Security at scansource.com. That'll come to me and my counterpart directly, and we'll be able to answer any questions for you there. So if you have anything about CMD or anything for Christian at all, just as follow-up, feel free to send it there as well. Just to wrap everything up and give you guys a couple of minutes back in your day, the one thing that I will kind of end this with is for everyone who did join, I will be kind of reaching out to you to see if you'd like to be a part of a campaign that we're going to be doing, I think sometime in November as of right now. So it's called Efficient Food Webinar. It's going to be something where you can send your end users an invite. They can come to this event. Cisco will provide some of the resources and talk track through it, and they're going to do a presentation around security and some of the cloud mailbox defense. For your end users who do end up coming to that event, they will have the option to get a gift card for $100 to Omaha Steaks or another vendor along those lines for filling out a survey. So they'll be able to get that as well. And then any of the information from that survey will be provided back to you as the partner, and you can work with Cisco on getting on some of those deals. Getting them spun up on some of these trials. So it's a great way to get them kind of introduced to some of the product line on security. Not a very big lift from you on the partner side, and then we'll connect you in with Cisco to really help you guys close those deals as well. Just wrapping it up there, I want to thank Christian for joining on the call and running us through this presentation, and mainly thank you for our partners for joining today and being interactive with us and being a customer of ours as well. So I will go ahead and end it there. I will make sure to send out the recording. And once again, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and have a great rest of your day. And thank you again to Christian.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Josh.
All right.